Usually the diet wars over the years, they were always carbs versus fat. And in any diet, it was like, okay, carbs are up, fat's down, fat's up, carbs are down. And then it got to be like carnivores versus vegans. And now finally, protein's having its day. I think back when I wrote the Virgin Diet, we'd had Wheat Belly, and then I wrote Virgin Diet, and then David Perlmutter did Grain Brain, and everything was like gluten-free. And all of a sudden we created a whole industry of junk food, of gluten-free junk food. Same things happening now. Like we're on the road as usual, and we were in Whole Foods yesterday, and there's like protein chips, protein cookies, protein. I was like, oh no, we're doing it again with protein. A couple things that we've gotten right now is that we're focusing on protein. That means eat real food for protein. I love the fact that we're starting to push you need higher levels, because we know as you age, you need higher levels of protein, not less. And even I'd argue our RDA is like pretty much off for anyone, maybe if you're in your 20s where your body seems to be way more forgiving because of hormones, but at least 30 plus, it should be double where the RDA is. In the perfect world, we'd be dosing it based on our fat-free mass, but at least dose it per your body weight. And looking at all the literature, because I was like, okay, I'm going to have to make a decision for my new book as to how much to tell people, and I won't be able to change it, but I think we can safely say 0.7 to 1 gram per pound of target body weight. Target body weight being that weight that you feel your best at, that would give you a normal, healthy body fat.
Okay, so does that change over the decades? Like you just said, as we age, it needs to increase. So how should we think about that?
This isn't just with age, but really there's a hormonal shift that happens where we don't build muscle as easily as we used to in our teens and 20s. Duh, we all know that. This also can happen because you're sedentary, because you're more insulin resistant, because you have more fat in your muscle, where you're more anabolic resistant, where it's not as easy for you to take those essential amino acids from your protein and your resistance training. You must have both, more like 75% what's going on in the gym and 25% what's going on in the kitchen. You cannot eat a bunch of protein, sit on your butt and put on muscle. No, you cannot. But there's another issue, and I think it's the one that's not being talked about at all that drives me nuts, is it's not just eating the protein and making sure that you're getting high quality protein that's got those essential amino acids. It's like, why do we eat? We eat because we need to get things that we couldn't get from air. What are those things? Essential amino acids, called essential because our body can't make them. Essential fatty acids, called essential, our body can't make them. Water, don't have that, deep doo-doo. We can live without carbs. I just don't think we can live well without them. I think we need the polyphenols and the fiber. We need this protein, but we also need to digest and assimilate it. And as we start to age, if we're under stress, if we've done anything to our gut, we're not able to break down that protein well. We got a problem. So that's the other side of it, is what do we need in terms of digestive enzymes, in terms of supporting our gut microbiome so we really can break down that protein and utilize it.
Okay, so how would somebody know if they need extra support with digestive enzymes? Like, does that mean digestive enzymes you take, or are we trying to upregulate the body making digestive enzymes itself again?
I think that at least temporarily, especially if you're 30 plus under any kind of stress, if you've eaten any glyphosates, you would do well with the trial of digestive enzymes. And I also think it's restoring your gut microbiome. So those two things work together. How do you know if you have an issue? You feel like a snake. You know that feeling when you eat, especially protein, where you just are like, this just feels like it's sitting here forever. Now, we know that protein and fiber together slow down stomach emptying, but they shouldn't grind it to a halt. If you just feel like that food's sitting in you, or you've got rosacea, you feel like you've got a little heartburn. It's always that paradoxical thing of, I've got heartburn, so I must have high stomach acid. It's like, no, you actually have low stomach acid quite often, and it's just sitting in there and it's not digesting. It's causing that stomach acid to wash back up again. Is it, heartburn? Is it bloaty? Is it that rosacea or breakouts? Any of those types of things can be signs of it. The easiest thing to do is just do a little trial.
Okay, how would we do that?
Easiest thing is just take some protein digestive enzymes and see how you feel. And generally people are like, oh, I feel better. Right? And if you take anything, especially if you were taking, let's say, betaine and you notice a little acid, back off. But if you take them and you feel better, you don't feel bloated, there you are.
So I have to ask you, you mentioned something really important about stomach acid and how we can actually misinterpret those, heartburn issues. What do you think about those stomach acid blockers that doctors are still putting people on?
So there is like one case where you would use that. and that's that Barrett's esophagus issue. But in all the other cases, God, that freaks me out. It freaks me out the most because of sarcopenia and osteoporosis. Well, wait a minute. If you're blocking stomach acid, you're blocking protein digestion. If you can't break down these nutrients, what happens there? And what happens there is a higher risk for osteoporosis and a higher risk for sarcopenia. And this is totally a guess. It could lead to some issues with food intolerance because you're not able to really break apart those proteins. And when you think of what happens there, where, ideally you're breaking everything apart in your gut, you're breaking those proteins apart, you're getting them to the small intestine where they can, now if they're not broken apart well, all of a sudden and you've got a leaky gut, they're crossing over and hitting that immune system that's right past your small intestine and causing an alarm bell to go off.
Absolutely.
It's causing all the gas and bloating and joint pain and headaches and fatigue. I say that because let's say someone goes, oh, great, I'm going to increase my protein. I'm going to eat a lot of eggs and dairy because I'm a vegetarian, which when I wrote the Virgin Diet, those were two of the foods that people tended to react to the most. One, because you are what you eat ate, so they probably weren't having A2 Greek-style yogurt, right? Or they probably weren't having pastured eggs, so they're eating factory-raised products, which have been fed GMO corn and soy.
Super
so now
contaminated.
You've got other
right.
issues, again, you are what you eat ate, but they're also eating it all the time because they're so reliant on those two types of protein. And now you've got your body launching this immune attack to these foods because the same little antigens are hitting your immune system. Your body makes the antibodies. And if it was every once in a while, you could get rid of them, but it's building up and causing all these symptoms. So I think it's an important thing to think about as we're talking about protein. You really want to eat a variety of sources, just like you would eat a variety of different plants for all the different polyphenols and fibers. You want to eat a variety of proteins as well. So you'll get different types of fatty acids, like think of wild fish and grass-fed, grass-finished beef. I think in terms of health and safety right now, we're probably better off eating small wild fish and grass-fed, grass-finished beef than we are eating chicken.
Yeah, I see that all the time, actually. Chronically ill people not doing well on chicken and turkey. They're thinking it's a nice, clean protein, but because the supply chain is so contaminated, they actually react to it a lot. And then they get really depressed and think, I can't tolerate protein.
No, you just can't eat that dirty bird. The worst sources would be to eat high fatty meats that are factory because you're going to get all those toxins in the meat. There's actually, and shout out to Max Lugaver, he did a really cool breakdown of grass-fed and finished versus grain-finished. And actually there's some benefits in the grain-finished meat. All cows grass-fed. It's just whether it's grass-finished or grain-finished. But there were some benefits to the grain-finished. The fatty acid profile would be different and not in a good way because it'd be higher in omega-6s versus the CLA and the omega-3s of the grass-finished. But I still think that eat lean if you're out, if they don't have grass-finished steaks. I think eating grain-finished meat, I put that kind of in a A+ on this. I'd give that a B, but go super lean, right? I'd choose that over a lot of other things. Where I put in the C category is things like farm-raised fish. Now, I know that there's some farm-raised fish that's okay, but I don't know what it is. I don't know the difference, so I don't know how to deal with that.
Can you explain the concerns around farm-raised fish for everybody if they're not up to speed on this?
So farm-raised fish is kind of like factory chickens, where we know that factory chickens, even cage-free, like cage-free just means they're not in a cage. They're still crammed together, right? But they're not in a cage. They are put in close proximity. Because of that, they have to give them specific antibiotics so that they don't get one chicken sick, they're all sick. So they're doing things to plump them up, hormones. They're doing stuff to keep them from getting sick, antibiotics, and then they're feeding them GMO corn and soy. And I'll tell you, I went to Expo West one year and I was trying to find some kind of chicken that I could use for my healthy catering company. And all of the organic chicken was fed GMO soy and corn. And I go, I don't understand. My head hurts. How is this? So that's where I stick with the pastured chicken there. But again, those are all the A's. The B's would be the lean meats. The C's would be the farm-raised fish that, again, is sort of like the chicken stuck in the coops.
Right.
If you are doing that, I would pick things that, I wouldn't eat farm-raised fish. So I just actually wouldn't eat it. I also wouldn't eat any fish. I'd give a D or an F to any fish in lakes, in the U.S. because they are just dirty. So I'd be super duper careful about that. I wouldn't eat factory pork or factory, I'd just stay away from that.